Hi, today probably I'm releasing a plugin for Unreal 5 called JoeIO, which is a level scripting input-output system. If you're not aware of how these work, I have a blog post just for you. So this is basically how level scripting worked in Half-Life, and then every Valve game after that, all the way up to Half-Life Alyx, and a number of other things too, I expect. This is what it looked like in the source engine, where each object can have a series of inputs. For instance, a door would have open, close, lock, and a series of outputs, so it would have things like on fully opened, on closed, on locked, and then they can talk to any other actor by name using a system like this. So for instance, here I have a button which sets off a timer, which sets off a sound. The timer has a particular duration that it goes for. It could be a random interval, but it's not, and by default I've just got it set at 0, so it doesn't do anything when I first jump in. But as you can see, if I click on this button, it's saying on pressed, target anything called sound timer using the function name setInterval with a delay of 1 second. And if I press the button, I can watch my event travel along that line. Timer starts to count down, sends the play, keeps on doing it. I'm wearing really loud headphones. This is killing me. There's a few UI helpers for this, right? If I look at the button, I'm looking at this output that it has, and if I click this button, I can select the other event that it's referring to. And again, I can just follow the chain along, and I can follow it backwards as well, because each actor shows you the inputs happening to it as well. There's also a select related button, select by name, because in this context, it's valid for things to have the same name. For instance, you could have a room full of overhead lights that are all called office light, and then one button that just targets, same as this does, office light, and it turns them all on and off at once. Of course, if you select 3 of these things, right, and then clone them, their names are all the same, so the connections are going to be wrong. Well, not necessarily wrong. In the light case, that is what you would want. You would want to be able to clone a light and have the new light and the old light continue to work. But if you don't want that, you can select all of these things and go duplicate unique. And now we have a copy of that entire setup. And all that's happened is we've copied them, renamed all of the actors, and renamed the actor names in their outputs. As a slightly more elaborate example here, I have a lift that has 3 levels, 3 buttons on the lift to go to each level, and 3 call buttons. If I jump in and go take me up to level 3, I've put a delay on that, and up we go. And I'm going to just jump straight down to the bottom and call it all the way down. You can also see that when it finishes, it sends a sound, right? It sends an input to 2 of these sounds. One on start, one on stop. Now the elevator is not actually an actor, it's just got a mover actor, which is just a generic thing, in much the same way that Half-Life had Funk Door, which ended up being used for a lot more than doors. You have a generic actor here that has, blend options and everything for moving between either, just where it starts and one spot where it's going, or multiple places in the case of the lift. And then the elevator platform is just attached to the mover. There's another bunch of logic actors that are built in here. Logic auto, logic relay, counter, timer, trigger, and sound. But the idea is that you would simply make your own actors and implement this feature onto them, or implement it onto actors that your game already has. For instance, if you can pick up corpses in your game, you would give the corpse an output like on picked up, and now you can have a level script kick off only when you pick up the corpse of some guy. If you want to target actors that are not present in the level, that works as well. You can simply press the unlock button here, and that lets you type your target names and function names instead. If you find yourself doing that a lot for actors that are not present in the editor, like the player, for instance, you can add that onto project settings and make them just always show up in the drop-downs, even though they're not present. I initially started making this system for Sleight of Hand, which is a game that I'm helping to make as a senior technical designer at Riff Raff Games at the moment, and the boss there, Josh, was cool enough to just let me sell it as my own thing, since it was my idea and I've long sort of intended to do it anyway. So while there's probably a few bugs in this thing already, you can probably expect them to be addressed fairly quickly. And I think it's probably fair to say that it's game ready, but do know that it hasn't been super extensively tested. It's held up fine for everything we've used it for over the past few weeks or months or however long it's been. I would encourage you to read this blog post in order to fully internalize what it is you're looking at before you buy it. There are other plugins that do this for Unreal. This is not the first plugin that adds this kind of support. But from what I've seen, they all have some fatal flaw or other that makes me uncomfortable using them, and I've got a list of those on the blog post so you can decide if they matter to you. Setting up your own actors to use I/O is very, very easy. You just implement an interface, add a component, and do a small amount of setup, and you can look at my buttons as an example. When you do add that support to one of your actors, that actor will automatically be added to this palette in JoeIO tool that shows up when you don't have anything selected. So you can just easily click to place any number of these things. This is really good stuff for empowering level designers to create scripts that most of the time they would have to go through a programmer for otherwise, especially since most of the time that ends up meaning you just don't do it. Here's a duck hunt that Robert Yang made. And a bunch of moving platforms, a jank tower, a curtain that you have to press a button so that the curtain moves and you have to keep moving to stay behind the curtain so you don't get spotted. All kinds of stuff. So feel free to buy this for the personal price of currently $100 until I change my mind. Or if you work at a bigger company that has a lot of money, talk to your boss about emailing me and figuring something out. If you have any issues, there's a channel in my Discord for it, or you can just comment on the itch.io page. Anyway, so long, hope this is useful for some of you.